Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Kevin, and we're discussing my life with Tourette's. Over the years, most recently over the past few years, I've had a lot of people ask me, whether it's people in my support group or people that have known me for a long time that know I have Tourette's, like, what are ways that I calm them down or control them aside from just the medicine? Because the medicine that I take now probably works better than any medicine I've ever took in my journey with Tourette's. It's probably helped me more so than not compared to in the past. But on top of the medicine, I've also learned to calm them down on my own. And it works great because, like, the medicine helping and the self-control. I mean, as you can see on video or hear me, whether you're listening to my audio, is like I don't even have Tourette's. And it works out great because it makes it a little easier in uncomfortable situations because I'm able to, let them out, but let them out in a more mild manner. Whereas, a good bit of people out there with Tourette's, they can't do it. And I mean, I've been there before I really learned self-control, and it definitely sucks to not be able to. So I fought hard and I fought strong to find ways. And some of those ways, like, I find one of the biggest ways that help me is music. Like, if I can listen to music, it'll, for some reason or another, I don't know why, but it controls them. It calms them down. I guess, like, I would say probably it's like a mind thing when it comes to that, I guess. Like, it's just a soothing thing when it comes to the music. And another one is, like, I found with the tic I have now, it really is a big help in me figuring out how to control it. Whereas if I just had your normal movements and your normal squeaking sounds or noises, it probably would be a little harder to control. But the coughing one, I've learned there's easier ways of letting it out in an uncomfortable situation. And by that, I mean, I've learned if I let out a minor cough, a little tiny cough, it'll help me get by to not having to let out that major cough, that really loud, aggressive cough that I let out, or the gagging myself. Like, by letting out them little minor, coughs, well, really tic, but I call it a cough, and it'll get me through not having to do that. Now, I've always said, like, when I'm at home, I let them out. I'm trying to control it. I'm trying to stop it because I'm around loved ones who I know don't judge and don't care that I do it. They make me feel as comfortable as possible, even when I'm letting them out. But when you get out there into public and you get out there into society where it's like you're going to be stared at or you're going to be judged or, all those things I've always covered. And I think anybody out there with Tourette's can relate to. You want to find that way to calm them down. And letting out these little coughs is like the biggest help for me. And it's kind of, at times people are still asking, like, oh, well, are you sick? Or why are you coughing so much? Or, this or that, one of them things. But it's easier to, like, bat that with the tics because you can I always say I just got a cough, or oh, I'm good, or I've had one person tell me you need to go get that checked out, get on some medicine, and all I told them was I'm on medicine, and, like, that was it. Like, they didn't ask again. I guess, I don't know, they put two and two together, I don't know. But then I've also had people be like, never question it, and then when it come up, they're like, oh, that's just what he has. I've had that happen a few times. It's like someone was like, hey, are you okay? And the person that's been around me that sees I have this cough, and they didn't even know I had Tourette's. They were just like, hey, that's just what he got. Leave him alone. I thought that was pretty funny when that came about. But You know, being able to have a way to let out your coughs in a small amount, in a more mellow manner, and getting by until the next one and the next one, like a big help. Now, for people out there that have a tick or like more aggressive ticks or whatever your tick may be, and it seems like really hard to control, you know, I think my best advice for that, for being able to control mine, is you just gotta find like that one little smudge thing that's like you could let it out, but not so bad to where it's like aggressive. Then I think that that'll relieve a lot of the, because like, yeah, you try to hold them in, and then there's all this tension. But with me letting them out in that little way, like it kind of kills that tension. It's not like I'm so built up that I'm just like, I'm freaking out in my own skin because it needs to come out. I definitely think being able to minimize them to get by until the next one and the next one has really helped me, dramatically, in a way of I can feel more comfortable around random people, or I can feel, like not so awkward in a situation that would make me super awkward. So being able to find those little tidbits to get me by until the next one. I mean, self-control has helped me a huge amount. And I'm hoping that, people out there with Tourette's that, whether it's real severe or whether it's a little bit like me or whether it's the in between, find those self-controlling, you know, mechanisms in you, or find them little self-controlling things and just go with it. I listen to music because, like I said, I touched on, music's one. I listen to music as much as I possibly can because it's going to control them to a certain extent. Now, yeah, like I covered in one episode about driving, it helps a little bit, but for some reason, like, so there is situations where controlling them is out the picture. But for the most part, I'm able to get them by and not have to worry about the outside world and how they look at me because I'm able to control them. And I think if there, people out there more often than not could get the self control, it's just a huge relief. And I feel so bad for the people out there that can't. I feel horrible for those people out there that there's no self control. I was talking with a woman in my support group whose son has Tourette's, and one thing that she brought up that brought me back to when I was younger is because I asked her, has he tried self control routes? And I never really thought about it at the moment. Was he doesn't really know when his tics are coming on. And that's like another thing. Like, as I've gotten older, I never really thought about that. Being able to know when they're coming on is also one thing you need to get to be able to cope with it and find your own little tweaks to help get by with it. And I've definitely learned that, I think that's another thing, not only self-control, but self-awareness of when it's going to come on and how to calm it down. And I know that's also like that big behavioral therapy thing or whatever it is. I think it's called CBIT for the Tourette's now. Like, I think that's one of the big things is like know when your tics, like being able to tell when you're about to tick and routes you can take to, like, help calm them down. And I had someone tell me that they're like, that's exactly what you do without having to go to a therapist, one of these therapy things, and learn that. They're like, that's exactly what you do on your own. And I never really thought about it, but I'm telling you, like, huge help for me, huge help for I think anybody that has Tourette's is being able to self-control, because the medicine's not always going to work. Like, 30 years I've had it, I've noticed. It's just not going to completely, boom, take it away. So if we could find ways to control it in our own selves, huge relief. I think for me, like, that's been one of my biggest helpers in being able to face the world with my Tourette's. And unfortunately, there's people out there that can't. There's people out there that are so severe, it's not at all gonna happen. But if you could do that, for me, biggest relief I've ever gotten, even aside from the medicine. Because your medicine, I know I've had my ups and downs with the medication. I've had my moments where it's like one day it'll work great, the next day it won't, or it'll work for a long period of time, and then your body gets immune. So self-control for me was a big help in being aware of my tics and being able to calm them down, you know. So just want to get on here and say, self-control is key for me, and I think self-control could be key for anybody out there with Tourette's that can really hone in on what they're about to do and minimize it. Like, that's a big thing. So, till next time, peace.